Good morning. Hey, this is Cody with Secure Agent Mentor and SecureAgentMentor.com. This is another podcast episode of Six Figure Focus. Again, where we are focused on building six-figure insurance agents, bringing you the content, the advice, the strategies, the tidbits to make you successful, to help you focus on hitting your goals. Whether it's six figures or another goal, we want you to feel like you have all the tools, resources, and knowledge to do so. Whether you're brand new in the business or whether you've been in the business for 20 years and you're struggling, or whether you've hit that 3-year plateau and you're struggling, whatever the case is, we want you to feel like, hey, I have a team in Secure Agent Mentor that wants to see me successful, that wants to see me succeed. And you know what? If you have questions, if you feel like you're all alone, if you feel like you're struggling, maybe you've hit a plateau, maybe you're struggling to get in front of people, maybe you're not extremely pleased or happy with your results so far, feel free to reach out. Whether you join our team or not, we will find a way to help you. That's just the way we are. That's what we do. We are focused on making sure that insurance agents know everything possible that they need to know to succeed, because the statistics are horrible. 9 out of 10 insurance agents won't make it 3 years or more. The statistics close to that. So even if that's the statistic, or if it's close to that, that's horrible. So we want to break the status quo and rewrite the record books, so to speak. So here in our, between local and remote, we're having about a year ago, about 2 out of every 3 agents are still with us and are actually going strong. So I feel like that even if it's 2 out of 3, or maybe slightly better, slightly worse, that's way better than the opposite being 8 to 9 out of 10 aren't here, So we're doing something right, and I feel like one of the things we're doing right is we are focusing on making sure that agents have a plan of action. You've got to know what to do, when to do it, how much of it to do, where to do it at, when to do it, all of those details, why to do it. You've got to have a why. You've got to build all those things. So, it becomes a point where all you've got to do is walk into the office, show up, put forth some effort, and execute a plan. That's it. If you have a plan of action and you're able to actually execute it, you have a much better chance of succeeding. So today we're going to talk about building a plan of action. A plan of action is something that you're figuring out how much money you want to make. Maybe there's a goal of, hey, I want to make $100,000. Just, hey, this is called six-figure focus. So let's talk about 6 figures. If your goal is to make $100,000, then the other things you got to figure out is how many appointments do I need to run? How many sales do I need to make? What's my average commission per sale? What type of markets do I need to see? You need to normally have 3 to 4 different marketing avenues, so to speak. But let's go back to the average commission per sale for a second. Whether your average commission is 15% or 100%, and that'll vary from captive to brokerage to independent, it doesn't matter. But even if you are captive and you're getting, if you're getting like I was back when I first started about 7 years ago, and you were getting like 35% for life, even if that's the case, and trust me, your commission's garbage and it's horrible, but I succeeded under that pretense, and you can too. It's much tougher to succeed, and the captive shops are the reasons why the insurance agent numbers are the way they are, and why most agents don't succeed is because they start out, they end up starting out captive or staying captive. And it's just, when you're making 35% comp, 30% comp, 40% comp, even 50% comp. It's much tougher to succeed. Our agents here are making anywhere from, on different products, anywhere from 70 to 110, 100. I mean, it just varies, So you've got to figure out all these different steps are things that we got to figure out. We've got to figure out, okay, if I want to make $100,000, then, and I want my prospecting avenues to be, maybe you want them to be warm market. Maybe you want to join a networking group, and maybe you want to work turning 65. And I'm just pulling those out, just totally random. Just trying to think through this with you so that you can see what I'm referring to and how I plan to go about this. So if I'm working warm market, networking group, and turning 65, I'm going to focus on life and Medicare. And obviously making sure that I'm doing some fact finding so I can have the occasional chance to sell outside of life and Medicare. I can have the occasional chance to sell long-term care and some annuities. So, those will help with bigger sales, just to occasionally get some bigger sales. I know Medicare can be easy to sell. You can get in front of a lot of people for Medicare in a very short amount of time. It can be very simple. But if you start to think through, the average commission is generally about $300 a year per case. So it's generally a little smaller than your average life sale. Your average life sale is going to be about, our agent's average life sale is probably $700. And that's a pretty, I'm trying to be conservative and be pretty accurate. Their average life sale is probably about $700, where an average Medicare sale is about Medicare. So you got to do about, it's probably closer to $750 for life. So you got to do about 2.5 Medicare sales to equal one life sale. Well, life's better for short term. Medicare's better for long term. So let's do both. So we're making money in the short term, and we're also building for the long term, which is something I personally believe in a huge, huge way. So if those are your goals, okay, you have 100,000, you want to work warm market, networking group, and turning 65, and those are going to be your three avenues. If those are going to be your three avenues, then we need to focus on how many appointments you need to run every single week. And if you're doing warm market, networking group, turning 65, and you're fact finding, you're focused on selling life and Medicare, we can say you need to run at least a minimum of 6 appointments per week. Absolute minimum. If you run less, you will fail. It will help your chances of success if you will run about 8. So we'll go ahead and we'll say 6 to 8. 6 to 8 a week consistently, week in and week out. We got to be doing 6 to 8 plus, 6 to 8 or more. So out of those, you need to have 3 to 4 sales a week. And depending how long you've been in the business, whether you're a new agent, sometimes your closing percentage can be much higher. Right now, if I'm setting 6 to 8 quality appointments a week from Warm Market, Networking Group, and Turning 65, I'm generally going to make a sale at every single appointment. Now, that won't work that way all year, but hey, I generally will make sales every time I get in front of people. I've just been in the business long enough that it just makes sense. So if we say our average commission, because you're going to sprinkle in some larger cases with some long-term care, some annuities, some life sales, some occasional life sales. You got especially with networking group and warm market, we're going to do a lot of life. So I would say your average commission per sale is going to be about $500 per sale. And so if we think through that, you need to make about, and that figure is actually, it's lower than I think it would be. I think we'd probably be closer to 600, but we'll just leave it at 500 just for simple math's sake. Because if that's the case and you're wanting to make $100,000, well, you need to sell about 200 cases during that year, which if you take it over 50 weeks, that's 4 a week. So I say, just to be extremely accurate, and so I don't mislead anyone, let's run 8 appointments a week. try to make 4 sales a week, an average commission of $500 a sale. And just to add something to it, just in case the warm market or the networking group or the Turning 65 aren't yielding the appointments we want, you can also throw in some life leads, because you can get in front of people for life leads and actually sell some pretty good sized cases working life leads. So we focus on those four markets, those 4 marketing prospecting avenues. Warm market, which is contacting your warm market and getting in front of your warm market. I read a book that's called Prospecting Made Easy, and it says in the book, if you don't have a list of 500 people that you know and that know you that you can't call and get in front of immediately, then you are not serious about succeeding. Let that sink in for a second. If I'm not serious about success, and a lot of agents will say, you know what, I can't even write down 20 names. Well, number 1, that's a lie. Number 2, those agents don't last long. I've had all but 1 agent locally make it for me out of about a dozen this year. And the 1 agent that didn't said, I don't have a warm market and I don't want to work my warm market and I don't have one. I just don't have any. Well, out of 12, 11 are still here or doing good. 1's not. I think we can attribute that to the fact that he or she wasn't serious about success. Didn't want to work warm market. Well, that's not my fault. At some point, you got to let an agent succeed or fail on his own, but you got to give him as much tools as you can. So we want to make $100,000. We want to run 8 appointments, 4 sales a week. We want our 4 avenues to be warm market, networking group, which is join a networking group, call or door knock, Turning 65, and call or door knock life leads. From those 4 avenues, average commissions will be about $500 to $600 a sale. So we need to make about 200, maybe about 160 to 200 sales, which is about 4 a week, honestly, about 3 to 4 a week, and you can do it. As long as you're fact finding, you are using a fact finder, and I've got fact finders. I don't mind letting people use them. So if you have a question about our fact finder, please feel free to reach out. And for the fact finder, we're focused on Medicare, life, long-term care, and annuities. Those 4 different areas, which are 4 areas you need to be fact finding and talking to people about and asking questions. Now, this is just a general synopsis of building a plan of action. We have much more in-depth action plans with our agents, but I wanted to give you an idea of what we do for agents when they come on to focus on getting them successful, to focus on getting them in front of people, to focus on letting them hit their goal. We're also, with our new website, we're also going to be rolling out a new way for someone to have a coaching session and a goal-oriented session with myself building a plan of action for an agent. I think it's going to run about $150 or so for an hour on the phone with me about your goals and coaching, and then also for us to build a detailed plan of action for you so that you can roll out of bed, put forth the work ethic in, and reap the reward in a big way. So be looking out for all that stuff. We're going to be adding some things. We want to be able to, and $150 that is dirt cheap. We could get away with charging $5,000, honestly, because of how much detail we put into these things and how it improves a agent's chance of success by about 900%. So if you have questions, please reach out. Please feel free to email me at cody.askins@secureig.com. Also, our new insurance training website will be up here in the next couple months. Again, secureagentmentor.com. Thanks so much for listening. Again, this is Cody with Secure Agent Mentor, talking about building a plan of action. This is another podcast episode. I believe it's our 14th or 15th plan of action podcast episode called 6-Figure Focus. Again, thanks for focusing on 6 figures. Thanks for being serious about becoming successful. We'll talk to you tomorrow.